Invention.
Max Planck.
Universe.
Me.
Leadership.
Surrender.
So, folks, you have tuned into TGV and hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series, the world's only quadrilingual podcast at this moment of recording. And we are trying to embark into multiple languages as we speak. And here we embark on transformative conversations for a better future. And we want to simplify and amplify your journey to success. I'm your host, Navin Samala, dedicated to making the world a better place by bringing you wisdom through valuable discussions with experts designed to simplify and amplify your success. And thank you so much for tuning in.
Folks, we are joined by Brian Curtis. He's an author, teacher, and seasoned adventurer who transforms lives by helping people unlock their potential. With 25 years of whitewater rafting experience and a life-changing workplace explosion as pivotal moment, he shares profound insights into changing belief systems, fostering creativity, and living with purpose. And today we are going to have an interesting conversation with Brian, and the topic is Trust the Flow, creativity, belief systems, and living fully. Sounds exciting, isn't it? But before we get started, before we get into the topic, here's an exciting twist as always. Let us tickle our guest's brain. So, Brian, get ready for a rapid fire round of random words, and I'll mention a few. And I would love to hear the first thing that comes to your mind in response without thinking much. So if you're ready, let's dive right in.
I'm ready.
Okay. My first word is curiosity.
Learning.
Invention.
Max Planck.
Universe.
Me.
Leadership.
Surrender. Peace.
And next one is aliens.
Perspective.
Okay. And here comes the last one. Role model.
Ascended masters, I guess. Those would be good role models.
I loved your responses, and there is one more rapid fire round toward the end of the episode, so stay tuned. And first of all, Brian, hearty welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm happy to be here. It's Monday morning.
All right. Yep. And thank you so much once again for being part of our journey in shaping the careers and lives of millions across the globe. And let's get started. So we'll begin with your guiding voice. Talk to us about who is your guiding voice.
Whatever my heart asks me to do, I guess. That quiet voice inside you, that kind of whispers very quietly. You're not exactly sure where you're going, but you just get led in the right direction usually. It can't be the wrong direction, right? You're only going in one direction.
Talk to us about your success mantra, as in the top 3 things that have contributed to your success so far.
Top 3 things. I guess state of being. I define success as if you can reach a state of peace and you're happy with where you're at. It doesn't matter, what tomorrow brings or what happened yesterday. As long as you're in a state of peace now, then you're in a state of success. So many people look at the external and, the external, if you're always looking out there for success, then you're always reaching for something that you can't get because you're not it. It all comes from in here. So I guess that would be, state of being, daily routines, and, the people that are around you, that you're surrounded by, the how grateful you are for the people that you have in your life. So yeah, I think that's success.
Superb. All right. And let's move to the next one. So can you share the story of the workplace explosion and its impact on your perspective on life and conflict?
Yeah. So that's an interesting story. I worked with quite a few people for a long period of time. I was working for a public utility, and conflicts arise at work, right? People compete over job positions. They compete for other reasons, and people don't like to be controlled, and when you've got exterior controls that are constantly invading in your workspace, it doesn't allow you to be as creative as you like to. And just that process of having to go to work every day and interacting that way, conflicts arise and people don't talk as much. And so it feels like there's a pressure building in relationships. If you can't communicate whatever it is you're feeling or whatever it is you're experiencing in your environment, then it's like a charge building up because you're not connecting the circuit. You're not expressing yourself and you're not receiving information as well. And so that's what I witnessed. I witnessed a slow buildup of a charge, and eventually that charge got released. It manifested in this three-dimensional reality as an explosion. And, the 6 guys that I directly worked with, it just so happened that I wasn't in that explosion. And the only reason I wasn't there was, when I look back at that, is because I wasn't directly involved with those conflicts. I never saw myself at war with anybody, and I, tried to do my best at just staying present, and it was just by chance. You can say it's by chance, but the reality is I wasn't involved in those conflicts. And so the people that got hurt in that explosion were hurt to varying degrees of how much conflict they were with each other. So the one that was, most conflicted got hurt the worst. He was closest to the explosion because, you're actively trying to control the things that are going on around you. So the more that you try to control it, usually the bigger the backlash that you get. And that's what I witnessed. Though everyone learned a lot, when something like that happens. Conflicts aren't necessarily a bad thing. It teaches us about our environment, what causes conflicts, what causes pain, what causes suffering. And we have to go through suffering. All of us have to go through suffering to some degree to learn how to avoid it. Right. And so, one thing that those people learned was that they actually cared a lot more about each other than they realized they did, especially when something like that happens and people get hurt from an accident. There's always a positive outcome for any kind of conflict because everyone learns something. That was one of the biggest lessons that I learned, is that the conflicts in our lives always teach us something. And it can be too easy to look at it negatively, but it's not a negative thing. Usually it's something that's always positive, that's teaching us something.
Got it. And let's talk about your experience with whitewater rafting, and how did that teach you about trusting the flow and staying present?
Well, whitewater rafting is a lot like the conflict that I just described, because actually every rapid is called a conflict in a river. So every rapid is a conflict. So there's different currents fighting each other and they're boiling over. And as long as you stay in the current and you don't panic, the river will keep taking downstream. But as soon as you panic or you try and fight the current, that's when you either have the potential of drowning. Because especially when you go over, let's say you go over a waterfall and you get pushed underwater. If you're underwater, you don't know which way's up. And, the best thing to do is to surrender to the river, hold your breath, and just curl up in a ball and wait for it to spit you out. Because if you try and swim out of it, you don't know which direction to swim. You don't know if the water's pushing you down still. And so you're expending breath, doing something that you're not exactly sure that's the direction you should be going. So, rivers teach you, just the simple mechanics of a river and how rivers change daily. All those mechanics teach us so much about life in general that if we can surrender to energies around us, it puts us in a place where we can ground out those conflicts or just make it through it and learn how to stay present and not panic. Don't ever try and anchor yourself in a river because, that'll drown you just as quick as trying to fight it. And things change every day. A river changes every day. It's never the same river the next day. So you might go down the same river 100 times, but the water levels change, rocks change, the way that the river runs changes, and then sometimes there's a flood. Sometimes it changes drastically overnight. And life is the same way, right? Sometimes things change in a very big way.
So what was the turning point that inspired you to become an author and also a teacher?
Well, I saw that it didn't seem like I was doing any good at work. I tried to make positive changes and, work with people to say, hey, look, if we connected in a different way, we could communicate better, make better decisions for each other in our work environments. But the way most work environments are structured, it seems like there's too many conflicting interests. And when you have conflicting interests, you're just going to have conflict. And those conflicts just regurgitate themselves over and over and over. And then people move in and out of positions constantly because of that. You don't see people, in stable positions because people jump over each other. And so I didn't feel like I was doing any good at work. So I left my job just to jump out in the unknown. I didn't know where I was going. I just had faith that I would be led in the right direction. And, it took a long time to figure out, where you get led. So in the meantime, you just get creative. And so I just started writing, and the book sort of wrote itself. It took a long time to write it. took probably within a year and a half of me leaving my job. I finished that book and I started another book. I'm writing my second book now because you keep learning. You don't ever stop learning. And so, you want to keep sharing those things, because if we don't share the things that we learn, then it gets harder it can be much easier on somebody else. If you can make the journey easier on somebody else and show them exactly what you learned along the way, then people don't feel so alone. They don't feel like, hey, what am I going through? Why am I depressed? Or why don't I feel like, I can connect with people? Those simple things are something that, if you can share what you went through, then it helps people go through whatever they're going.
And then let's talk the limiting beliefs, right? So limiting beliefs, and also what steps can people take to change these deeply ingrained belief systems that hold them back?
I think it's just part of the journey. I think our belief systems change along the way. And I think that, you kind of have to go through it in order to understand it. We never understand, the beliefs that we have until we get faced with. And you might believe a certain thing, but once you're faced with, how you're connecting with people, and you realize that there really isn't anything that is limited. The only thing that is limited is our own belief system, that we can't do something. If you believe in yourself, you can do anything. All you have to do is hold that image and just keep walking in faith, and eventually you'll get there. It may take a long time, but as long as you don't give up, you'll get there.
And you also talk about this concept of creating our own reality, right? So what are some practical ways to start?
Well, I like to use examples. If you look at all of the most successful creators out there, there are people that literally created their own reality. Certain YouTubers, right? If you have a YouTube channel where you're creating content and you're just naturally attracting everything you need, you literally will witness yourself creating your own reality. Just getting in your creative energy to make sure that you're creating things that people need or want, and that's actually the only way that you're going to figure out if you are creating something that people need or want to hear, is by getting in that. And feeling the response from the people around you to see if you're actually humbling yourself to the things that they want or need, or you're not. And if you're not, then generally speaking, then what you're creating won't be accepted. One of the most successful creators out there is James Cameron, who wrote Avatar and Terminator and all those movies. That guy, of all the creators that we have to have examples of, he's definitely probably the most successful creator that I can think of that has created his own reality.
No, I loved the example. Wonderful. And what will be your advice for individuals who are struggling to find their purpose in life?
Purpose in life. That's a tough one. You don't find that out until much later. It takes a long time before you really get to your purpose and stay in your creative energy for a long time. And your purpose might change over time as well. I don't think any of us have just a standard purpose per se, but we go through parts of our lives where our purpose changes over time because we understand ourselves at a deeper and deeper level over time. It really is a process of learning about yourself. And the more that you can learn about yourself, the more that you'll understand what other people need, and your purpose will continue to change because of that.
Okay. And now let's change the gaze and talk about fostering creativity, right? So can someone foster creativity in their daily lives, especially if they don't consider themselves being creative?
I think there's always a way that most of us are creative, right? Even the way, if you think about just doing your laundry, how are you folding your clothes? You're probably folding your clothes different than anybody else. The way you decorate your house, we're always creative about what we're doing. And if we're not in our creative energy, usually we're just spending too much time consuming. If you can live a balanced lifestyle where you're just staying in your creative energy for a high portion of the day, you'll just be a lot more fulfilled on the whole. I think social media for a lot of people has created a creative avenue, whether it's YouTube or this channel, it allows you to stay creative, and that opportunity will always allow you to meet more people, to understand other people, and do those things that just make life more fulfilling.
Absolutely, I concur. Like my journey in this podcasting started 4.5 years ago, and every conversation is different. Every guest has something to teach. Right now, likewise, it has become an obsession. So the creating field is something which is really interesting, and it keeps us always on our toes. Wonderful. All right, so Brian, this has been incredible conversation with tons of insights, and it's time for us to add some more spice and some more excitement to the episode.
Hello, I'm Steve Ahern, one of the judges of the Asia Podcast Awards. I'm interrupting this episode to let you know that you're listening to an award-winning podcast. This podcast won its category in the 2024 Podcast Awards, so you know you're listening to quality. Enjoy your listening experience, and congratulations to the team who created this award-winning podcast for you.
Which means you're going to enter into the second rapid fire round. If you're ready, let's get started.
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay. And my first question to you is, if you could have one gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say?
Just keep the faith. One mustard seed is all you need. One mustard seed of faith, and you can do anything. Just believe you can.
And can you describe yourself in just one word?
Whew, I don't know if I can. I am, because I've changed so much. I'm assuming I'll keep changing, so I'm not sure I can pinpoint any word other than I am that I am.
And a book that changed your perspective on life.
Probably the first book I read, Where the Red Fern Grows. Yeah, love that book.
Mm-hmm. And then what's your go-to mantra or phrase during challenging times?
Just accept and just be grateful for the experience.
Whitewater rafting or teaching? What gives you more adrenaline rush?
Actually, there really isn't too much difference between the two, because you're never at war with anybody but yourself, right? Doesn't matter if you're in the river, you're just trying to stay calm and focus. And if you're losing your focus, then that's, it's something that you have to deal with. It has nothing to do with anybody else. So teaching is the same way. You learn more by teaching because you learn more about yourself that way and how it's being received. So yeah, they're both equal in my eye.
And if you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be?
Oh, I'd have to have dinner with Jesus. I'd want to talk to him for at least an hour. Right.
And one belief about life you think everyone should challenge?
Life is a gift, and treat it like a gift, And I think if you can do that, then you've mastered most of the tough parts.
What is the best lesson you have learned from nature?
That life is always moving and changing, right? It never stays the same, and there's always something new. Something new is always growing, and it's a burning bush. There's something old is being destroyed and something new is being created constantly. And if you can accept that and just go with that, then you won't ever try to hold on to anything. It'll be a lot easier day to day.
All right, wonderful. And here comes the last one for the second rapid fire. What a skill that you have mastered that you never thought you would need?
Probably public speaking. I never thought of myself as a public speaker growing up, but I've become more of a public speaker in the last 8 months than I think I ever have before.
Good one. I love the responses to second rapid fire round as well. And let's flip back to the mainstream. So, Brian, what is your advice for someone facing a major life challenge and struggling to move forward?
Rest. If you're struggling and you feel blocked, just rest. And eventually you'll get to a place where you'll get guidance on where you should be going. And that's kind of the best advice I could give, because the more that you can connect with that inner voice within you, and you can trust yourself to keep moving forward in that way. There isn't anything more valuable than being able to trust yourself and always knowing that you've got your own back, that, you never have to grasp at straws all over the place, because otherwise, if you don't trust yourself, then you'll always be wanting, you'll always be, reaching out for something. So if you feel like you're going through struggles, or just take a break and take as long as you need, because the universe will support you. It's not going to leave you behind.
Awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, Brian. And how is your experience being hosted on TGV, the Guiding Voice podcast?
It was excellent. I have to say it was an excellent experience.
All right. Thank you once again and for being part of our journey, and looking forward to hosting you again in future. All right. And I wish you all the best in everything that you do, Brian.
And you too, Naveen. This was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And folks, that was our episode with Brian Curtis. And before we jump into the fun trivia section, we have a quick request. If you have found the episode useful and if you have enjoyed the conversation, request you to share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who would also like TGV. So spread the knowledge and help others grow just like you. All right, now it's time for us to cruise into the trivia segment. So today's trivia is about 2 interesting and lesser known facts about the origins of whitewater rafting. The first thing is military beginning. Whitewater rafting originated in the early 19th century as a practical means of navigating dangerous rivers for exploration and military purposes. Explorers and soldiers used makeshift rafts to cross turbulent waters during expedition, especially in uncharted territories. And the US Army Corps of Engineers played a key role in designing early rafts for navigating rivers like the Colorado during the surveys of the American West. Second fact is about rubber raft revolution. The modern era of whitewater rafting began in the 1940s with the invention of rubber rafts by Clyde Smith, a rubber manufacturer. Originally developed for military use during World War II, these rafts were later repurposed for recreational use, and their durability and flexibility made them ideal for navigating whitewater rapids, paving the way for rafting as a sport and leisure activity. So, folks, that's it from my side from the trivia perspective. But I would love to hear from you in terms of if you have already had whitewater rafting experience, do let me know how was your experience. And also, if you know any tips related to dealing with life challenges, do let me know. I would love to hear from you and looking forward to your comments. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and also for being part of our awesome TGV family. So until next time, take care, stay inspired, and remember the best is yet to come. Goodbye for now. See you all in the next episode with another amazing guest. Take care. Love you all. Bye bye.